First of all, I'd like to thank SOSA for inviting me to speak here. I'm truly humbled and honored to be able to come and do talks with the community. Also, have to thank God because for me, God is not part of my story, He is the story. So like Ken said, I grew up in middle class Richmond. And what people don't understand about addiction is that we're so focused on the substance that we forget the value of a human life. And so behind the child that existed in me at a young age, my dad was very hard on me. So I endured years of verbal and physical abuse that left me crippled with anxiety as a human being. This led to self-medication, depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts. I had a negative voice inside my head that didn't let me be who I wanted to be. I was crippled by what people said about me, how people looked at me, and how people judged me. And quickly, drugs became the solution to my problems. And I quickly got involved with gang activity, drug dealing, and finally, substance using, where it took over. The progression of addiction, what starts off in the beginning is so small. You have to look about what addiction does for the individual, what the drug means to the person. You have to look at what good it does, instead of looking at what bad it does. What good it did is it actually made me feel like I belong. And that's the part that people don't seem to understand. And so what starts to happen, though, is that what it once was, where I could have no problem going home and having my dad punch me in the face. As years went on, that became the solution to everything. And they take more than they give. So the pain that I'd endured from a young child, see, and that's the one thing that it took me 35 years to deal with the pain. So to ask somebody to deal with their pain, it's on their terms, not on my terms. So today I work for one of the biggest health providers in British Columbia, but before that, I was lost and consumed by addiction in the downtown east side of Vancouver, where I injected heroin and cocaine 30 to 40 times every day for 20 years. We're not talking just every so often. We're talking drugs were my food, my air, and my water. This was the life that I never wished to grow up with. So, after years and years of struggling in addiction, there's many, many trials. There's many, I call wisdom painful life experiences. And we learn from them. And so, after numerous attempts to try to go into detox services, going across BC, Alberta, treatment facilities, nothing seemed to work. And so people began to give up on me. People began to believe that I was hopeless. I was consumed. And that there was no hope, that I was going to die. I have died 6 times. I've been brought back to life with naloxone, Narcan. All 6 times that I died at a supervised consumption site. So it's a facility that exists in the downtown east side of Vancouver. If that facility didn't exist, I wouldn't be here. So, for me, what impacts people that struggle with addiction the most is the stigma that exists in communities. People say in downtown Eastside, people are enabling you to continue using. I'll tell you why people stay in the downtown Eastside. Because it's entrenched with resources to keep people alive. That's why people stay there. Why would I want to come out to Delta or Langley or any other community when nobody cares, and everybody looks at me, and everybody points their fingers at me? because I may look a little different, or I may have sores on my face. But really deep inside, what I'm trying to do is I'm fighting every day to live. And I did that for decades. Every day, I fought to live. So, how did I get up? How did I stop? I kind of call it hell in a cell. I was arrested. I was thrown in jail. I was on the top bunk by myself. I wanted to kill myself. And I stared out the window. It's a little window like this. And I could look at the stars in the sky. It was just me in that room, alone. And a prayer went out to God. I said, if you exist, then you will take my life. And I was crying. I couldn't fall asleep. And I fought back and forth. And I said, if you exist, I can't live like this. I can't. I cried myself to sleep. I woke up in the morning. I can't even pray right. Maybe it doesn't exist. Ironically, I pointed up to the sky again and I said, well, then you better show me what to do. A sequence of events started to happen. People started to come into my life. Correction officers didn't talk to me because I was a violent inmate that didn't get along with anybody. A correction officer came and talked to me and said, why don't you come and do the drug and alcohol program in jail? I said, no, that's what for? She said, maybe you'll hear something. I went and did that program. I actually could have been released from jail in 2 weeks for bail to go do a drug court program. I declined it because I was too afraid that I would go back out and continue to do the same thing that I had always done. I stayed in jail, did 13 other programs while I was in jail, and then after 5 months of being in jail, then I said I'll do the drug court program. I went and got involved in that, got released, met the most beautiful woman in the world, got married, have 2 beautiful children, Gia and Noah. Today I work for the biggest health provider in British Columbia. And the irony behind all this is that I work in the same community that I used in for 20 years. So throw everything out that a doctor would prescribe for an addiction services, and comes me, walks into the room, and they're just like, hey, how? The same people that, you know Norm from Cheers? Ever watched the show Cheers? I'm Norm in the downtown east side. Everybody knows me. Everybody watched me struggle for 2 decades. What's happened in my life is that God put me here for a purpose. And when you don't understand your purpose, God showed me the reason why this happened is because you're going to do this. So about that prayer in jail, I was driving in my car one day on the way to work on Highway 1. And I said to God, I said, you answer every prayer that I've ever prayed for. Can I ask you something? Sure. He said, that prayer in that cell, what I said, take my life. He said, Guy, I've been with you since day one. I've been with you when you struggled. I've held your hand the whole time. In regards to your prayer, I did answer it. Here's your new life. Go and run with it. So my life, my job, is to work with people that struggle with addiction. My life is to help people. See, people that are struggling with addiction, never judge them. Because unless you walk the mile in their shoes, you'll never really understand how painful it is to live every single day. In British Columbia, 4 people die every day to a drug overdose. And in the United States, 7 people die every hour to a drug overdose. This impacts every one of us. And the rate that we're going in addiction, pretty soon, everybody will know somebody that's struggling with it. We have to change the culture and the stigma that exists in society to save the youth from running into the same issues that have been going on since the beginning of time. We as people have to stand up and say, and have acceptance, and say, let's do something. Let's help. How do you help? 1 in 8 people support people to get better, just not in their community. That has to change. It can't be in the downtown east side. This has to exist. Every community has to pick up and support people that are struggling with addiction. Because one day, it may be your grandson. It may be your child. It may be your friend. And I've always found that when somebody judges it, and then they get impacted by it, they start to understand it. And so what we can do as a community and as a society is encourage compassion, empathy, and to remove the stigma would to be accepting of welcoming these places in our community and saying, we're going to help them. Because in the eyes of God, we're all equal. That's humbling. There's nobody here better than anybody. And so for the big part of my job today is going into high schools and talking to children to educate kids. And I remember when I was going into schools, I remember one person I told, naturally when I went to school I was told drugs were bad. Little did they know the person that they were talking to was already using drugs. So I had already associated at a very young age that I was a bad person because I've used drugs. So I'm already growing with that. So my spin on it now is, I'm not here to tell people not to use. I'm here to tell you if you're gonna. And please do it safely. Let somebody know. Because I don't want to find another 16-year-old at a playground that's died of a drug that they thought that they were getting that turned out to be fentanyl. And so 88% of the people that die of a drug overdose, they die alone. 60% is in private residence. Starbucks bathrooms, coffee shop bathrooms, parkades, playgrounds, bushes. Society driving people to use by themselves. And the opposite, addiction is isolation. The opposite of that is human connection. So moving forward, let's exercise a little more compassion, a little more humanity, a little more understanding. And we can change this, and we can help people. Because I don't want to hear of another child, another person dying. It can be stopped, and it will be stopped. And that's why I'm here on this earth. Thank you.